All right, Larry. Your prints came back. You know your other name, right?
Curtis or Gerald or Jerry or whatever name you're going by this week.
Curtis Kimball.
Curtis Kimball. Or Gerald
Mockerman?
Mockerman, right.
Ring a bell?
No.
Yeah, that's who you are, man.
On November 10th, 1985, a hunter walks into the woods of Bear Brook State Park in New Hampshire. He spots a tipped-over 55-gallon metal drum near the site of an old burned-down store. He goes to look inside. Inside that drum, wrapped in plastic, are two bodies, a woman and a little girl, both beaten to death, both so decomposed that investigators could not get a single fingerprint. No dental records match them. No missing persons report in the entire country fit their description. No one came forward to claim them. Then, 15 years later, in the year 2000, 300 feet from that first barrel, investigators found a second one. Two more girls, same drum, same plastic, same silence from the entire world, 4 victims. A killer so careful that for 4 decades he had no name, no face, and no record of ever existing. He had lived multiple lives across multiple states under multiple identities, and he had been leaving bodies the entire time. This is the story of the Chameleon Killer, the man who became someone new every time he killed, and the investigators, genealogists, and volunteers who refused to let 4 women and children disappear from history forever. When investigators opened that first drum in 1985, they documented everything carefully. The adult woman was estimated to be between 23 and 33 years old. The girl with her was between 8 and 10 years old, both killed by blunt force trauma, both wrapped in plastic before being sealed inside the drum. They were so decomposed that identification was impossible. They were buried in a local New Hampshire cemetery. Their headstone read, "For here lie the mortal remains, known only to God, of a woman and a girl child. Their slain bodies were found in Bear Brook State Park. May their souls find peace." That headstone stood for years. The case went cold. And then, in May 2000, an investigator doing a routine follow-up walked 300 feet from the original site, pushed through some brush, and found another barrel. Inside, 2 more girls, toddlers, 1 to 3 years old, 2 to 4 years old, beaten to death, wrapped in plastic, same method, same concealment, same killer. Now investigators had 4 victims, and a DNA test revealed something that changed everything about how they understood this case. 3 of the 4 victims, the adult woman, 1 older girl, and 1 toddler, were biologically related, a mother and 2 of her children. The 4th victim, as in the other toddler, was not related to them at all. She was someone else entirely, which meant the killer had not destroyed 1 family. He had destroyed at least 2. For 17 years after the first barrel was found, the case was a complete dead end. No suspect, no name, no connection to any known criminal. The killer had left nothing behind except 4 bodies in 2 drums. Then in 2002, a 44-year-old chemist named Yoon-Soon Jun disappeared from her home in Contra Costa County, California. Her family was suspicious of her new husband. He went by the name Larry Vanner, charming, controlling, isolating. When homicide detective Roxane Grunheid arrived at the house, his story kept changing. She got a search warrant. In the garage, investigators found a pile of cat litter, 4 to 5 feet wide, 2 to 3 feet high, hundreds of pounds of it. Under that cat litter was a human foot. Yoon-Soon Jun's dismembered mummified body had been buried under 250 pounds of cat litter. He had bought 10 25-pound bags from a local pet store. Larry Vanner was arrested, his fingerprints were run, and the matches came back like dominoes falling. Vanner matched Curtis Kimball, arrested in California in 1985 for abandoning a 5-year-old girl. Kimball matched Gordon Jensen. Jensen matched Bob Evans. Bob Evans, an electrician who had worked in Manchester, New Hampshire in the late 1970s. The same time frame, the same state, the same area as the Bear Brook Murders. His real name was Terry Rasmussen. born 1943 in Denver, Colorado, a former Navy electrician, a man with at least 5 confirmed false identities, spread across multiple states, used one after another every time he needed to disappear. Terry Rasmussen had a pattern. He targeted single mothers, women who were vulnerable, women who needed stability. He would come into their lives charming and attentive, and then methodically he would cut them off from everyone they had ever known. His first known victims were Marlise Elizabeth Honeychurch, 24 years old, a single mother from Los Angeles with 2 young daughters, Marie and Sarah. Around Thanksgiving, 1978, Marlise introduced her family to her new boyfriend, Terry Rasmussen. Her family had concerns, but Marlise left with him anyway and was never seen again. Marlise, Marie, and Sarah are 3 of the 4 Bear Brook victims. They were killed sometime between 1978 and 1981 and buried in a metal drum in the New Hampshire woods. Marlise was 24 years old. Then came Denise Bowden. November 1981, Manchester, New Hampshire. Denise was 23 years old with a 6-month-old baby daughter. Her boyfriend, going by Bob Evans, came with her family for Thanksgiving dinner. The next day, they packed up and left. Denise's family assumed she had moved away to escape financial trouble. Nobody reported her missing, and Rasmussen drove away with her infant daughter, raising her as his own for 5 years, telling neighbors he was a grieving widower. Denise Bowden has never been found. And the 4th barrel victim, the toddler confirmed as Rasmussen's own biological daughter, was the child of a woman named Pepper Reed, born 1952, from Texas. Last seen in the late 1970s, investigators believe Rasmussen killed her too. Her body has never been recovered. Rasmussen was convicted of Yoon Soon Jun's murder in 2003 and sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. He died there in December 2010 of lung cancer, still using a false name, still hiding. He died believing he had gotten away with it. He almost did. Detective Gruenheid refused to stop. She requested that DNA taken from the 5-year-old girl Rasmussen had abandoned in 1986 be compared with his own DNA. The result, they were not biologically related in any way. So who was this child he had raised and then abandoned? A genetic genealogist named Barbara Ray Venter took the case in 2015. She ran the girl's DNA through ancestry databases and identified her as Dawn Bowden, Denise Bowden's missing infant daughter, the child Rasmussen had kidnapped. And that name placed him directly in New Hampshire, exactly when the Bear Brook murders happened. In 2017, authorities publicly named Rasmussen as the Bear Brook suspect. DNA confirmed he was the biological father of the 4th barrel victim, but 3 of the 4 victims were still unidentified. That is when a New Hampshire public radio reporter named Jason Moon launched a podcast about the case. It was downloaded 11 million times, and one of those 11 million listeners was a librarian named Rebecca Heath, an amateur genealogy researcher who started combing through online family tree databases looking for matches. Heath found them. Working completely separately from law enforcement, she identified the adult woman in the 1st barrel as Marlise Honeychurch, missing from California since 1978. DNA confirmed it in 2019. The 2 girls with her were confirmed as her daughters, Marie and Sarah. 3 of 4 victims finally had names. But the 4th, Rasmussen's own biological daughter, remained unknown. For another 6 years, she was called only the middle child. In 2024, the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit partnered with the DNA Doe Project, a nonprofit of volunteer genealogists, for one final push. They built a family tree from the middle child's DNA, 25,000 people, branch by branch, generation by generation, ancestor by ancestor. They traced back to a couple born in the 1780s and followed every branch of their family tree forward through centuries of births, deaths, and marriages. Then they found a 2005 obituary a woman survived by a daughter named Pepper Reed. Pepper Reed, born 1952. From Texas, last seen in the late 1970s. They searched further, and within 30 minutes of finding her name, they found a 1976 birth certificate. It listed the parents as Pepper Reed and Terry Rasmussen. On September 5th, 2025, the middle child was officially identified. Her name was Rhea Rasmussen, born 1976, Orange County, California. She was between 2 and 4 years old when her own father put her in a metal drum in the New Hampshire woods. The New Hampshire Attorney General stood at a podium and said, "This case has weighed on New Hampshire and the nation for decades. With Rhea Rasmussen's identification, all 4 victims now have their names back. It had taken 40 years, 2 barrels, 3 exhumations, a podcast with 11 million downloads, 1 librarian, 1 genealogist, and a family tree built all the way back to the 1780s. But Rhea's mother, Pepper Reed, has still never been found. Investigators believe Rasmussen killed her too. Her disappearance remains an active investigation. Terry Rasmussen is dead. He died in a California prison in 2010, still hiding behind a false name. He was never tried for the Bear Brook murders. He was never made to stand in a courtroom and hear the names of the women and children he destroyed. Marlise Honeychurch was 24 years old. Her daughters, Marie and Sarah, were children. Rhea Rasmussen was between 2 and 4 years old. Denise Beaudin was 23. Her daughter, now known as Dawn, survived. She is alive today, and she knows the man she once thought was her father was actually her kidnapper. Pepper Reed is still missing. The case is not closed. If you have any information about the disappearance of Pepper Reed or Terry Rasmussen's movements between 1974 and 1985, contact the New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit. They all had names, so it just took the world 40 years to learn them. If this case stayed with you, subscribe. We cover the ones the world almost forgot. New episode every week.